All right, Mr. Barker. What the hell happened last night to your team?
I don't like your hater, buddy.
Jays losing to the. Well, hi everybody. By the
Hey,
way, everybody. It's Blair and
welcome to the
Barker
show.
on Sportsnet. 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Yeah, 5-0. The Jays lost to the worst team in baseball.
Rolls right off the tongue, don't it?
Yeah, I had to be careful how I said that. 5-0. The Jays lost to the worst team in baseball last night at the Rogers Center. Booed off the field by
First
the
time
fans.
all year?
No.
No?
I made a note. They were booed off the field. Hell, I made a note of it.
Wasn't that loud, though, was it?
Early. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I made a note. I came on Blue Jays Talk and saying it was awfully early for a team to be booed off the field. I said, remember I said they were booing. I still think they were booing the decision to take Barrios out of the game.
Yeah, that was different. That was the first home game, though. That sort of,
It's different that they booed during the first home game.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, Jays fans have been, they've been grumpy since the start of the season. And
You wouldn't be?
with perfect. Oh, I am with perfect reason. Perfect reason.
Hmm.
I mean, I find myself in the rare position of being the least grumpy person on the planet, which is maybe not on the planet, but it's sort of in, I've come to, I've made peace with what this season is going to be. Really, I just have. This is the way it's going to be. Like, they're just going to fight and scrape for wins. And what are they now? You were saying
10.5 back, 4 games back.
It's way too early.
6 teams in front.
It's way too early to look at the standings. But now that you brought it up before you went in the air, yeah, they are. We are looking at the wild card now.
They're a lot back.
The division is toast. They're basically. They're basically the entire league out of the wild card.
It's crazy.
Like, seriously.
It is nuts.
Baltimore's got the first spot. Kansas City's got the second spot. Minnesota's holding down the third spot. You got Boston, Tampa Bay, Texas, Detroit, Houston, and then Toronto. Toronto was 4 back of the last wild card, 8.5 back of the second. And, I mean, to put it bluntly, there are fewer teams between them and last place than there are between them and the wild card spot. Oakland is 20-30. They're 6.5 back. The Angels are 19-30. They're 7 back. And the aforementioned White Sox are 15-34. They're 11 games out of the final wild card spot. So, that's where we are. The Jays look for a series win tonight in the deciding game against the White Sox. It'll be Mike Clevenger against Chris Bassett. The Jays lineup is out. And no Danny Jansen in the lineup today. Alejandro Kirk's behind the plate. It's Schneider, Varsho, Guerrero, Bichette, Turner, Biggio, Kirk, Kiermaier, IKF. That is the lineup.
No Jansen.
No Jansen. Justin Turner DHing after breaking an 0 for 30 with a double yesterday. I mean, I'm not surprised Danny isn't behind the plate. I think Danny's not going to. I don't think he's going to catch every game the rest of the year for the Blue Jays. Little surprised he's not DHing.
Yeah, not really. I mean,
he
can't play every day.
He can't play every day.
No, he can't play every day. I mean, he's a catcher. You try, catch him and DH him at the same time, playing him, 5, 6, 7 days a week. It's hard. Like, that's a lot to ask a guy who, a lot of the times has trouble staying on the field anyway. Look, I saw a stat before I came in here, and sometimes I don't really read into a bunch of stats, but I saw this stat. Jays are getting no,
you're not wearing
not
khakis.
a chance. Jays get a fastball. That is a 4-seam sinker or a cutter, 58.8% of the time. That's second most percentage in baseball. Yes, behind the Braves. So the Braves get the most amount of fastball percentage thrown against them in baseball. Why I brought this up was because of Crochet last night, basically giving the old fastball sign.
I bet there's different.
Here it is.
And I bet there's different reasons that the Jays have the second highest number of fastballs thrown.
Yeah, well,
compared to why the Braves have
the Braves too are sort of middle of the pack offensively. They've had some guys not getting off to hotter starts like they were last year. Like
David Guy's hurt.
Yeah,
too.
there's
Murphy.
a reason why the Braves are 6 games back of the Phillies in the National League East. But why I brought that up is sometimes I think we talk about is the lineup talented enough, and I've always said to you, how do you take a hitter serious unless he can hit a fastball. Like, Vladdy all of a sudden is hitting somewhere in the almost 340 off the fastball. I sort of turned his season around. Now, would you like to see him pull more fastballs in the air, hitting home runs that way? But he's getting hits off of fastballs, I think is my point. The reason why I brought this up, if you're getting a fastball almost 59% of the time, and you're hitting 249 off of those. Now, again, that's three different hitters. That's a sinker, cutter, and a four-seamer. The Blue Jays as a team are hitting 249. That's 23rd in baseball. They're slugging 380 off of the three different fastballs. That's 27th in baseball. Only reason I brought that up is last night that lefty basically was saying, I don't have to be real fine with this thing. I get the same stats that everybody else gets. Everybody else is throwing you fastballs. Why shouldn't I? I'm going to wrinkle in that cutter occasionally. I'll throw a arm side change up just to keep you honest, just to say and tell you that I can. But I'm going to come right back in there. I'm going to go enter third. It don't even have to be in. Like, I'm going to go enter third. I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss with velocity. If you get me, you get me. I just think that's sort of telling, right? Is all the conversation we hear around this team, this organization about game planning and basically overthinking this thing. Baseball, Jeff, is baseball. If I got a team full of dudes who can hammer the heater, what 2015 and 2016 do better than most teams? They hammered the fastball. That I think is, as an organization, I think if you're Ross Atkins and the front office, if you're trying to go out and get guys to sort of, start to turn the corner offensively, maybe it starts there. Maybe it starts with guys who can hit the heater.
I just wanted to make a slight correction. Nick Nestrini's actually starting tonight for the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah,
they made 4 player moves about an hour and a half ago.
I'll do respect. He stinks.
Eloy Jimenez is on the IL.
Got an ERA of almost 8
after pulling a hamstring. We saw that yesterday, running around third and scoring. So Eloy Jimenez.
Don't you have to run in baseball?
Yeah. Well,
how do you not run in the outfield?
Difficult times.
Jimenez, you would think that's about to run its course. Like, basically every other day he's on the IL. So you would think they're gonna have to make a move there one way or the other.
We've got a really good show today. Michael Soroka will join us in a few minutes. He is with the Chicago White Sox, and of course, we've had Michael on a lot. It's one of our favorites. Trying to stay healthy. I was going to say trying to get his career back on the road, but that as long as he's healthy, he will be doing that. He's currently pitching out of the bullpen and making some starts for the Chicago White Sox. We'll talk to Michael about that. Darrin Jackson, White Sox radio analyst, joins us. Alex Anthopoulos, president of baseball operations and general manager with the aforementioned Atlanta Braves, will be on, and Dan Shulman, our Blue Jays play-by-play voice.
Wow, what a show.
Will join us over the line from the Rogers Center. So we've got to say this, just sort of putting I don't even know if I'm going to call it a bow on last night's 5-0 loss. Garrett Crochet was awfully good. Barker, you talked about this 99-mile-an-hour fastball, 92, 94.
He didn't pitch at 99. It was more 94, 95, 96 is an occasional.
But he hit 99.
97,
he hit
99
in his fastball.
Yeah.
And the Jays Jays didn't get a hit until Justin Turner's double in the 5th inning. Yusei Kikuchi, 6 innings pitched, 3 runs, 2 of them were earned. Some mechanical issues in the 5th inning. Had 3 walks.
Error cost him, too.
Error cost him. Tim Mesa came in and basically failed to do. Basically failed to do his job. Came in, walked the lefty, and gave up a hit.
They need to do some adjustments to the pen. Like there's some people down there that are having some bad times.
And Tim Mesa now is righties are hitting 355 often. With the 3-batter rule, it's awfully hard to try to find a pocket for Tim Mesa right now. And I'm with you. Look, Bowden Francis and Chad Green are going to be back here, we believe. Now, I think they're pitching today. They are expected to be with the Jays in Detroit. Yariel Rodriguez may not be that far behind them, so reinforcements are on the way. But you're right. And I don't know. I don't pretend to know how you rearrange things in the bullpen, because it seems to me you're basically dealing with a bunch of issues right now. You've got 3 guys you trust. You got 3 guys you trust if you're John Schneider, and the rest of them you're basically throwing stuff against the wall and hoping that it sticks. Wanted to ask you something about Justin Turner. As we mentioned, he was 0 for 30 before the double. If you look at his splits this year, he is having a heck of a time against right-handed pitching.
Yeah.
Left-handed pitching, 186 weighted runs created plus against left. I mean, he's
sees the ball longer.
Are we at a point with Justin? We talked about how it's entirely possible that a dude at that age may not be able to have back-to-back career years.
Be tough.
It's entirely possible.
Sure.
What happens if he continues to have those issues? If you're the Blue Jays, do you foresee any way that some sort of platoon emerges? Because and the reason I'm mentioning this is I'm thinking about Joey Votto. Joey Votto's doing baseball activities. I don't know when we're going to see Joey Votto, but I got to think the fact that he's still around makes me think that the Jays are at least going to let him have
college try.
Have him a sniff.
Oh, yeah.
Sniff of the majors. Mm-hmm. Do you think we may be getting into a situation where you almost have to, if not platoon Justin Turner, be a little more careful about who you match him?
Yeah,
up
I don't know how you would do that, right?
Well, for example, maybe not even a platoon like tonight. I understand Danny Jansen needs the night off, but do you think we may see more or some other alternatives when it comes to the DH instead of Justin Turner being in there?
Yeah, I think if there was a lot of other people hitting, yeah, absolutely. You play the hot hand. You would, if you have to sit him, he's not getting the job done when it just comes to making quicker adjustments and able to combat what a pitcher and a khaki and an organization is trying to do to him to get him out. But who else is hitting, Jeff? It's like, don't you have to have other options? Like, you brought him in here to help carry a team for a week at a time.
Can I also
who
say
else, unless you call some guys up from AAA?
Well, can I also say, though, that 0 for 30 was 0 for 30?
Yeah, a lot of dudes struggled.
Biggio? I'm just saying, if a guy is going to be 0 for 2 weeks, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, now you got to remember, and I'm not making excuses for him because you're right. 0 for 30 is 0 for 30. And listening to his comments,
sick, yes.
He was like that. The bat looked a little slower. It was obvious, right? And the league had adjusted to, not throwing the ball down as much. But
again, this is the guy you got in the offseason. This is the only guy you got in the offseason.
Is that his fault?
But it's the only guy you got in the offseason.
They brought in here.
And I'm saying, I'm just wondering, do you play him every day?
Yeah, look.
Do you automatically put Justin Turner in as your DH every day?
We started the show with how far behind they are in the American League East and where they're at in the wild card standings. Like, if they tell me the other option, give me the name.
I'm just asking.
Oh, you got to give me you can't just be doing it to be doing it. I mean, look how long it took him to move Springer out of the leadoff spot. Like that's. Right. This guy's sitting in the middle of the order. They're counting on him to drive in runs and, help them go on a little bit of a streak. And I ask you again, who else do they got?
Do you automatically? It doesn't even have to be a lefty. Do you have another righty bat in there every day? I'm asking.
I think they're trying to do that a little bit with Danny Jansen and trying to hide Kirky and not play Kirky as much, and because offensively he's basically giving you nothing. I'm not sure that I have the right answer for you. Again, I'm not in the clubhouse a lot. It's not, it's not like I'm in there grinding in a batting cage with these guys and know the conversation. And I read off the fastball stats for a reason. There's not a very good fastball hitting team. Like a couple guys that can hit it. But other than that, Danny Jansen and Vladdy can hit it. And Danny's the only one that's hitting them in the seats. Vladdy don't. How do you, again, until you actually see that start to turn the corner and get much better, and dude's hunting it. That's all. We hunting them. You're going to get us out with spin because you get most people out with spin. But until we go up and actually look like we're hunting it, and when we get one that everybody thinks we should be hammering, and we hammer that thing, it is like you throwing names in a hat, and they got what they got, Jeff. Like, how many times can you honestly say that when that dude goes on the mound and you can go, man, that lineup's got more talent than that guy? It's far and few between. Maybe tonight. This dude starting tonight's got an ERA almost 8. So he's probably going to dominate them. It's like, because they've never seen him before. Like, it's, you overthink it. It's just, can they hit a fastball? Can they consistently do damage on the fastball? I mean, simplify it as much as that. And until they answer that question, how do we take them serious? Can we say that? Are we in the same ballpark, same camp?
Yeah.
Like, it's we can hear the hitting coaches say all of these mechanical and athletic and getting the hands back. And can you beat the guy to the spot? Forget about the educate, guessing, and all those things. It's hard to do that. Yeah.
We will check in with Dan Shulman later on. We'll continue our discussion. You're right. I mean, there's only so much you can do. You can do with the lineup.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you.
7:07 will be the first pitch tonight as the White Sox take on the Blue Jays at the Rogers Center. And if you take a peek down into the White Sox bullpen, you'll see our next guest. We had a camera shot of him last night. You can see him. Michael Soroka joining us on Blair and Barker. There he is. Michael, thanks so much for doing this, man. Good to see you again.
I appreciate you always having me on.
So it's funny. David Singh of Sportsnet did a terrific article. It's up on the website after an interview he did with you, and he talked to Alex Anthopoulos about the decision to trade you to Chicago. And Alex sounded an awful lot like a guy who'd rather not have done that. And I was thinking about this because when the Jays acquired Jose Barrios, we had Thad Levine on of the Minnesota Twins, and he basically spent 15 minutes. And at the end of it, I kind of said, man, it sounds like you didn't want to make that trade because he liked Jose Barrios so much. I'm just wondering, from your point of view, look, we understand it's a business. We all understand it's a business. But did it mean anything to you to have Alex kind of present it to you the way he did, that, this is an opportunity for you?
Absolutely. And it's something that we've talked about, quite a few times in the past was, the last few years, we obviously hit quite a few bumps in the road, and that was pretty difficult. It's not how we envisioned everything working. 2019, 2020 on, it kind of came crashing down a little bit, and, we went through a lot. So at the end of the day, it was a good conversation that I had with him right after the trade happened. And, he was the first one I talked to, and he made sure to mention that, he did believe in me, and seeing that in the article again, obviously, it feels good. It feels good to hear. And I believe in myself, and it's always nice to know that other people do as well. So, it's something I wish obviously didn't have to happen. At the time, it was an organization that I've been with my whole career, and a lot of people that I'd become quite close with. And, obviously it's a great team over there too. We've had a lot of good years. And turning the page to the next chapter wasn't the easiest thing, but, it's exactly what I did need. And, obviously working through a couple of kinks still, and, want to make it back to where I know I can be sooner rather than later, and obviously put out those really, really top innings for this White Sox club.
Yeah, before we jump into that, I got to ask you about your headspace. I've been struggling at the big league level. It's not the easiest thing to do. Like, it's just, and everything you've been through with the injuries and starting, and now you're in the pen. Like, headspace-wise, where are you at? How have you handled this?
Yeah, I think quite well. I've been lucky to have a lot of people, beside me that have either been through similar struggles or, are going to be with me no matter what. This year was difficult because, I did kind of finish last season quite well, I thought, and kind of got to a point where, I felt like everything was coming together, and saw everything come together in spring training for a little bit, and, just didn't quite have that off-speed command like I need to. And that was the biggest thing. And that's kind of what really showed, was the ability to put guys away, 2, 3, 4, 5 pitches into an at-bat. There was a couple things that we were doing that, I can't exactly speak to as far as pitch and all that kind of stuff. It's a difficult game when things aren't right. I wasn't doing myself too many favors. And I think we got back to a point where we said we need to just let it rip and go be an animal on the mound. And, that's what the bullpen has kind of allowed me to do. And kind of find that version of myself again, because I think putting too much into each pitch is difficult, and I think I was trying a little too hard to be perfect. Pitching to results is difficult, so kind of erasing all that and wiping the slate clean and just going out and trying to dominate with every pitch, and that's helped turn a page the last couple outings for sure.
Good for you.
Michael, how difficult has it been, or how difficult is it to sort of develop your own routine in the bullpen?
Yeah.
Because you had a routine as a starter, obviously, but now in the bullpen things are different. Have you talked to anybody about how you go about doing that? I know you talked to Chris Reitzman a lot. Has he had any advice for you, or have any of the guys in the bullpen been able to give you hints about how to get ready and just how to stay in that, how to maintain what you need to do in that role?
Yeah, I think right now it's a little different than most bullpen roles, because I still went out there and threw 80 some pitches, so there was a couple days where I was down and not available. But I think the biggest thing that Chris and I talked about was just going out there swinging as in punching. You got to punch first, and I think that's the biggest problem with where a lot of my starts were this year is none of them in particular were all that bad. If you looked at, exact results, things could be a lot worse in a singular outing, but it was just outing after outing. I seemed to not be able to find everything and put it together until I got punched in the mouth. I'd go out there and nibble, and then give up a 3-run homer in the third or fourth inning, and all of a sudden flip the switch and find it. And I think that's something that you don't have the luxury of doing in the bullpen. You got to flip that switch right away. I talked about that with Chris quite a bit and these guys down here, and fortunate to have experienced a lot of different things with Baseball Canada. I talk about it all the time, and being on the junior national team and traveling like we did, pitching 3-4 times in the Dominican trip when you really don't have all the resources, you don't have the facilities at all times. It's just go out there and pitch and get outs, and it's a good way to kind of put everything behind you, all the built-in excuses that someone can give you, or you can give yourself even without even knowing it. It doesn't exist in the bullpen. It's just about being ready when your name's called and just giving it everything you got.
I know you had that 4-inning relief outing against the Yankees on the weekend. You hit 90, I think 97. At this point, do you use the gun at all? You talked about wanting to let it eat. What does that mean for you? Is it something in terms of velocity? Is it how you are on the mound? It's putting guys away. What does letting it eat mean?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. And, velocity comes with it a little bit, but more than that, it's life. We talk about this over and over again, how different fastballs can play up or down. And a lot of it comes down to aggressiveness, intent, and life. And we've said this before, is if you're 100% and your top fastball is, let's say, 94, that's going to play better than some guy who's, top fastball is 98 and he's taking it off a little bit. He's pumping the brakes. And, I think most hitters now can say the same thing, is that there's just a different life on a fastball when it's everything you've got. Mm-hmm. And, whatever the number reads on the board, I think it plays up. I can see it, it puts hitters on their heels. And it goes into your off speed too. When you have that life on your heater, off speed automatically plays better. Everything kind of tends to play up a little bit. So for me, that's what it's about, and getting ahead early and often, and putting them away when we get there.
Heart rate and energy on a team that's struggling to win baseball games. That been tough, or I was there occasionally where you just happy to be a big leaguer, and that's enough to get the heart rate and the energy up. But is there, have you had to think about those parts of it just because of how your team's doing?
For myself, no, not really personally. It's every time I'm out there, I'm pitching for, a win. Obviously, you're pitching for the guys next to you. But I mean, again, it's your career. It always is. Doesn't matter if you're on a good team, bad team. Doesn't matter at what point in the season. Everybody's always watching. This game is more than ever, I think, what have you done for me lately? And because of that, it's a matter of coming to work every single day. It doesn't matter. I think most of us can say that. And although there's some things that just aren't quite clicking with this team as of yet, I still believe that this team has much better to show. And I'd love to be a big part of that.
A crystal ball at the end of maybe hopefully you go back to the rotation. What are you hoping to gain from being in the pen? Whether it be extension, location. You mentioned velocity. Like, is it everything? Like, what's the end goal there for you?
I think just the mindset. I think the most difficult thing, like I kind of mentioned earlier, was being able to just let it go from pitch one as a starter. Seemed to be a bit of a hurdle that I was struggling to get over. And I think the bullpen kind of forces that. It pushes that along. And I think anybody watching can somewhat say the same thing, is that, I'd nibble. I never did that when I was at my best. I didn't do that in the minor leagues. It's not what got me to the big leagues. I wasn't trying to barely miss off the plate. I wasn't being careful out on the mound. I was going after hitters with everything I had. And getting back to that and not worrying about injuries, not worrying about results. It's difficult after years down, years away, and you wonder if you've still got it. And, you yourself, I have the belief that I do. It's just a matter of being able to let go of all the expectations going into it. And, obviously going to keep, like I talked about, letting it eat in the bullpen. And hopefully that opportunity comes in the rotation again, and just take that same mentality out there.
Nice.
Michael, really good of you to join us today. You know that we appreciate your time.
We're rooting for you, buddy.
We are, man. Stay healthy. Yes. Stay healthy. Keep it going. We'll chat again.
Yeah, good luck. Good to see you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank
good
you.
To see you
Take care.
See ya.
Michael Soroka of the Chicago White Sox, who we've had on the show.
It's great to talk to him many times off the show, and just what he's been through and how tough this has been. Okay, that mind space is. I've been there. I've been there where, I've been on the 30th floor crying my eyes out because I had no idea where my career was going. And the conversations that I've had with him off the show and just me and him, it's sort of that part of it right there, the unknown of if when I'm healthy, am I going to be good again? Like, how do I get back to that? And actually having a team that believes in you is going to give you opportunities to go out there and have some hiccups and go, okay, you had a hiccup starting, we're going to throw you in the pen. Go out there in the pen, let that thing eat, man. Look, don't be afraid to turn around and look at the scoreboard and see how hard you're throwing. I think he's fortunate there.
Yeah, and I find, the thing we have to remember about Michael Soroka is the serious injuries weren't arm-related for the most part. They were Achilles, right? I mean, we all saw the first time he injured himself, and the second time, and then he had hamstring, and then I think he did have a forearm issue last year a little bit. But that, to me, would be the most frustrating thing, is that in a game that chews up pitchers' arms, it's your freaking Achilles going over to make a play at first base. Like, total fluke.
Bad luck, right?
Yeah.
And then he did it again, and it's just it's like it can't be the easiest thing, right?
This guy, people need to remember, this guy went to the All-Star game.
He's really good.
I mean,
he had the best sinker in baseball one time, you'd think,
absolutely.
right? Yeah, you could argue.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm reading David's article. I'm going to send out a link to it because it's a really good article. The youngest Braves pitcher to be named to the All-Star game during his Rookie of the Year. I mean, he finished second in the National League Rookie of the Year balloting, sixth in the Cy Young race during 2019. This guy was supposed to be him, Max Fried, and a bunch of other guys. This was Strider. This is going to be the Braves' core. So we do, we really hope. I mean, and I'm sure he's the type of kid, if he stays healthy, he'll make the most of this opportunity, and we'll see him.
He's a great dude. I mean, he's impossible not to root for. Like, I'm lucky enough to have conversations with him, and you root for him. I hope he does really well, and
absolutely.
Yeah.
Darrin Jackson is a White Sox radio analyst, and of course, he's a former MLB outfielder. We'll talk to DJ about the White Sox win last night, what may lie ahead for the White Sox as well. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. All right. Every now and then I need to be reminded to turn on my microphone, which when you talk for a living is probably not the probably not the best thing. Alex Anthopoulos joins us at the top of the hour. He is president of baseball operations and general manager of the Atlanta Braves. Are kind of holding it together with some injuries.
Yeah, they're 9 games above 500. Like, what's holding it together?
Well, holding it together for a team that for holding it holding it together for a team that's had the injuries they've had.
Austin Riley's sort of the little unknown one that they need to hurry up and get back. But
Sean Murphy as well. I mean,
it's some homers, right? It's like get back to thumping, and it's hard to do it back-to-back years. Well, it really is. And the Phillies been off the charts good.
Well, this is the thing. But anyhow, we'll talk to Alex about that. Dan Shulman joins us as well. The Jays lineup is out for today's game. Why don't I run through it, and then we'll go to John Schneider before DJ joins us. It is Schneider, Varsho, Guerrero, Bichette, Turner, Biggio, Kirk, Kiermaier, IKF, Chris Bassett on the mound. This is the manager of the Blue Jays, John Schneider, just a few minutes ago.
Bowden got his work in, 2 1/3, 45 pitches, and Chad did not get the pitch. He's going to throw tomorrow.
With Bowden, would that be the final step for him?
Yeah, it could be. See how he feels tomorrow. Kind of make a decision in the next day or two, and go from there.
How did things go for Yariel last night?
Fine physically. Came out, pitch count, 16 pitches in the inning. Wanted to get him at least one, maybe another up two, but just continued to build him up, but he felt fine physically.
He makes no after this?
Yep, we'll stay on during that.
With Daniel, what's kind of the balance you're trying to strike right now of how hot he is versus the position he plays, needing to get him days off?
Yeah, I mean, a delicate one for sure. He's obviously swinging the bat really well. He'll be ready to go today if we need him at some point during the game. But yeah, it's a delicate balance, and it's tough to take him out of the lineup right now for sure. But you got to trust everybody, and you got to try to pick the right spots for everyone, and not run Jano into the ground or anyone for that matter.
Is this stretch making it a little challenging too, like 26 and 27 right now, like 3 games?
Yeah, I mean, I think where we are, you definitely, guys, they know what we're getting into in terms of the schedule, and they know what we're getting into in terms of the day game. So you try to balance it, with certain guys, but at the same time, for the most part, you want to get guys like Jano out there as much as you can over this stretch.
What made this a good opportunity for George?
I mean, I think a lot of things really, trying to target that. Really, this goes back to spring training, trying to manage, his plate appearances, his workload, all that kind of stuff. So that plays into it. But I think just watching and seeing Georgie, just giving him a day to kind of, catch his breath a little bit, and hopefully give him a chance to exhale and get rolling.
That was John Schneider, the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. So an update on the pitching situation. Bowden Francis, and we don't know about Chad Green. Clearly, I think they'd like to see Chad Green one more time, but it could very well be. I'd be surprised if we don't see at least one of them. If we don't see at least one of them in Detroit this weekend, and Yariel Rodriguez, I mean, it's different now. The Jays are they're viewing him as a reliever, so I think the quote unquote building up of Yariel Rodriguez is a little different than it would be as a starter. And quite frankly, he can't get here fast enough.
Maybe one of them three can hit while they're down there.
So no Danny Jansen, as we thought. And again, it probably shouldn't come as a surprise because Danny Jansen is not going to play every day. Even healthy, he's not going to play every day. We can talk about the other, some of the other moves, but I mean, you made the point. What's he going to do? It's not like there are a ton of options for John Schneider right now. George Springer not in the lineup today.
How will we sleep? That's right. That was rude.
Bad man. That was rude. Let's bring in Darrin Jackson. He's a White Sox radio analyst, former MLB outfielder, joining us from the Rogers Center. Darrin, thanks for doing this, man. How you doing?
I'm fine, and thanks for having me on again. This is our annual visit, and I appreciate it.
It
Absolutely.
Is. Well, we look forward.
Well, we missed you too.
We look forward to having you on, and we do miss you.
We do.
We do.
Keep more lies. Keep telling me more lies. Feel good about it.
Come on. If people are lying about you in a nice way, it's not really a lie. That's the way I look at it. Hey, before we talk a little bit about, obviously the injury bug bit the White Sox again today. I got to ask you this about Garrett Crochet. They've got something there, don't they? I mean, Captain Obvious, but man, they've got something there.
No, he blew me away. I talked to him last year after he's coming back from his Tommy John surgery, the recovery, and we stopped on the street talking to each other in Boston. And I said, "What's your future look like? What do you want to do? You want to be a short reliever, mid reliever, or starter? What's your ultimate goal?" He said he wanted to start, and we talked about it. And it was all about him going into the winter, letting the team know what his future plans were in his mind, and they acquiesced. They're like, "Yeah, okay, go for it. Let's set you up. Let's stretch you out. Let's get you in that rotation." The thing that blew me away is when I saw him in spring training. This is a guy that had a pretty high, walk percentage, out of the strike zone percentage. And in spring training, he threw nothing but strikes with every pitch. I go, wait a minute. What is going on here? So that's what the shocker was. It's not that his stuff wasn't electric already. It's just he couldn't command it. And then all of a sudden he came to spring training and he was commanding everything. And I'm like, well, I like what this looks like. And basically nobody's really had a chance because of it. He's had a couple of bumps where he was predictable on throwing his slider, and that got hit a little bit, but he's backed off that, and now he's making the proper adjustments to bear up against this very tough league.
What do you think the next step is? I know he's throwing some change-ups, pretty hard change-up. I know the cutter, glove side, that's into a righty. Is there a next step for him? Maybe, different quadrants with the fastball. He throws hard. He's not afraid to throw it. He's not afraid to throw it down the middle. Is there a next step for him?
Well, Bark, if there's anything, it would be commanding the quadrants, yeah. But yeah. I think at this point it's asking too much because he is commanding the strike zone, and at 97, 98, and the explosive, fastball that he throws, and the cutter, and the slider when necessary. You're right, the changeup is enough offset, but I think the next step is just sign him up for the All-Star game and let him go play.
That's it.
Yeah, no, listen, we talked about this. Now, granted, the Jays aren't the best lineup in the history of baseball, but, he
here it is. See if you can hit it.
Well, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly. And you know what I liked about it is I saw a guy who sort of realized that he wasn't pitching against the best lineup in baseball. And here it is.
Well
if you can hit it, hit it. But, we were watching him pitch, and I'm like looking at his cutter, and his changeup is like 92, 94, and then he hits 99 with the fastball. And you know what? And he looks like a guy who wants to kick the snot out of you, quite frankly.
Well, that's a great observation. He does have that look, right? That confident look. He's only 24 years of age, and he's that kind of guy that's looking in and saying, get in the box. That gives you that edge. Those are the kind of guys Bark used to like to charge the mound on.
That's what he tells me.
I got him, guys. 6'6",
Hold me back.
250 guys.
Hold me back.
He's got all the intangibles, all the tangibles that make him the guy that you look for to the future to be your number one. And don't diminish the fact that the Jays are struggling offensively. There's still big names that have starred at this level in the past. So, if you're Crochet in your first season of starting, he's not just looking and going, oh, this guy's an easy out. He knows he's got to be careful, especially the day before when they were lights out crushing the Sox.
Darrin, Crochet's one of the guys I think if you're a White Sox fan, you'd want to tune in and watch. But with your job, and you're trying to do this every day, is there a way you're trying to sell to fans that the White Sox are going to be better sooner than later?
I'm actually not. I'm to be honest. When I broadcast, I give you entertainment along with the actual game. I give you the facts of why it happened, all this, But we do see light at the end of the tunnel. We've got a lot of really good arms down at Double-A level. A couple of guys in Triple-A maybe that are close to getting here. We've got Nastrini here tonight that's starting against the Jays. Jonathan Cannon is somebody we've already seen this year that's got a bright future. So. We know we're not that far off when it comes to the starting rotation, and we've got a couple of key athletic players that are, on the horizon here soon too. But what we're looking at right now, the expectations aren't going to be anybody's thinking we're supposed to win. We just don't have the roster set up for that this year. We just wanted to get better defensively, and we struggled there out of the gate, and now we're getting a little bit better defensively, and that's why we went from 3 wins and 30 losses to all of a sudden We've been over a 500 club for the past 3 weeks, so we've figured things out that way. We're putting some things together, but this is not a team that's going to compete against the big boys in this division or this league.
And of course, it doesn't hurt. I mean, Eloy Jimenez goes on the IL today. I do believe, unless I read this someplace, I think Luis Robert either he started his rehab assignment yesterday or it's starting today. How soon do you think he can be back up here, and what would his addition mean to this lineup? Because he's clearly, when healthy,
5 tools.
Exactly.
Yep.
5 tools, maybe 5 tools and more.
No, there's no doubt he's a 5-tool guy, that's for sure. And he's an impact player that any team would want starring for them. So he's a difference maker in our lineup when Robert's there. I mean, he's the one guy that if he was in the lineup, you'd literally say, okay, when he comes up, teams are going, oh, crap, don't let him beat you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have that in our lineup right now where you're going, don't let this guy beat you. Maybe Tommy Pham, but it's still not the level of the Luis Robert. And, yeah, we can use him back here just for the sake of, we're going to get one of the best players in all of baseball to look at every day and shine on a roster that needs that little spark. So, yeah, he had started the rehab about 2 weeks ago, and he had a little setback, so he's just getting back into it again. So there's no real timetable, and, it really is just going to be get yourself right, be able to run 100%, and be able to get back in there and stay in there. And Eloy was doing great. He was running, had a few stolen bases. He was feeling pretty good, played right field for the first time, and then all of a sudden, he's down again. This is just unfortunate, but an annual thing for him that every year he has his injuries that pop up with his legs.
Darrin, it was performance-driven when I played. You either performed or you were in the minor leagues. It doesn't sound, listening to you talk, this is the way the White Sox organization is trying to judge players. Am I right by saying that, or is that basically what it comes down to? You want to be part of the future? Show us you can hit 270. Show us you could hit 15 or 20 homers. Is that the case or not?
You know what, Mark? The truth be told, we've kind of been a team in the past that we gave too many guys opportunities to just hang around. He's going to figure it out. This is the most turnover we've seen on a roster at the big league level. Guys on and off the roster, you're DFA'd. You're going to clear waivers. We're not worried about it. We'll bring you back maybe. So this is the first year with Chris Getz, the new GM, that's actually making people be accountable. Players are going to have to get the job done or they'll send them back out. And that's been years since we've seen anything like that. Now, I like that plan, but at the same time, we're not reaching down to our prospects and bringing them up that aren't quite ready either. So it's a real weird balance of bringing guys in like a Corey Julks, who's a 28-year-old that's doing really well for us and getting his chance to star for a team that, needs somebody to help him win some games. And it could work out for somebody great like him. He can showcase his skills and end up on another team getting a chance to play that has more value. But we're going to let anybody and everybody get a chance right now, and we're not promising anybody anything that's not a top prospect.
Give me a scouting report on Nick tonight about the fastball. I know batters seem like they slugging 500 off his fastball. He's got an ERA of almost 8. Tell me about his scouting report.
Well, he's only made a couple of starts, but he's got the makeup to be pretty good up here. He's got a real good changeup. That's the thing. He has to locate that pitch. I think what it comes down to on him right now is you've got to look in, as you pointed out with Crochet, look in as if you're telling that batter, get in the box. He doesn't have that yet. He's made 2 big league starts. So, he just needs that edge about him. And when he gets that confidence, then his stuff will play up here. As it stands right now, the fastball, the changeup, the sweeper, and the slider, they're great pitches, but it's all about the confidence when you throw them. And he doesn't quite have that yet.
Darrin, we appreciate you joining us, man. Good to talk to you.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, thank you, guys. I can't wait to get the check in the mail.
It's on its way. Trust me.
See you later. Have fun.
That'll take care.
See you guys.
All righty. Be well. That's Darrin Jackson, the great Darrin Jackson,
That's
White
awesome.
Sox radio analyst.
Can't be the easiest job. Like that, doing that and trying to be optimistic and happy and fun. You're one of only a small few doing that, but still, that's what I said. Like, how do you judge a team that's not winning a lot of games? That the future just doesn't look like it's around the corner, right? How do you do that? It's hard. It can't be easy.
Are we on the verge of seeing that here?
Boy, I hope not.
Are we on the verge of? Maybe we'll ask Dan today when he comes on.
Yeah, until Bo and Vladdy are not here, I don't think you can have that conversation yet. Like, I don't even think you can think that. I don't even think you could say it out loud, Jeff.
Well, I don't know if you had a chance to read Rob Longley's article in the Toronto Sun today. An interview with Kevin Gausman Kevin Gausman, predictably, because he's a guy who will tell you. He will tell you what he thinks. I mean, he's already talking about, if we don't play well, this team will not be together much longer. And he said nobody here wants that. And I guarantee you, if he's talking about it, then guys like Chris Bassett are talking about it. They're all aware of this.
They're humans.
They're humans. They've been around.
Mm-hmm.
They can read the tea leaves as well as anybody.
They see the standings just like we do, Jeff.
Yeah, and they know better than most why it's happening. They know better than most why it's happening.
You ain't got to be smart about baseball to know why it's happening.
But they know why. Hear what I'm saying?
It ain't happening.
No, they know why it's happening. Not, you know what I'm saying? It's not just, we're not scoring runs. No, they know why.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's happening. Because I truly do believe, one thing from covering baseball for a long time, I do not think, and this is because I have a ton of respect for ball players, especially dudes who've been around for a long time, I don't think you can fool ball players. I don't think you can fool.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think it's tougher than it used to be, right? I mean, when I played, I think a lot of baseball players just happy to be big leaguers. It's not that way anymore. Like, you become a big leaguer a lot younger in your life now than you did when I played. So, yeah, I think they are a little bit more invested in everything on the field and off the field, a little bit more off the field than normal. I'm with you. It's just funny how we've heard change of scenery. And we've heard what Kevin Gausman said.
Yeah.
And we've heard Bassett also say, enough, like this needs to turn the corner, needs to get here in a hurry. It's just funny how the conversations with the players that matter have started to go in directions that probably the front office don't want to hear.
And if you read the national media in the States, again, I made this point the other day. Vladdy and Bo started to show up especially Vladdy, started to show up on the might-be traded list.
Yep. Hitting a hater.
We talked about Mark Feinsand's article, an unnamed NL executive saying these two guys could be change of scenery guys, which, again, that sends shivers down my spine because that indicates change of scenery means things really, really, really aren't going well. If elite players feel that they need a change of scenery, or if the industry looks at – because, people talk.
Absolutely.
Yeah? Players talk. As well as I do. When they get together and hug and center, when they're at first base, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. And guys share agents. Trust me, whatever's happening here is well known throughout the industry.
Yeah. An offensive player, I'm not sure is in a hurry to run here. I mean, let's be honest. As
would
a pitcher,
you look at this ballpark. Where'd the home runs go?
Well, yeah,
I mean, whatever the hell's happening.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of the times it's because they can't hit them. I think it's a lot of overthinking it. And now you get back to that fastball thing. You make the big leagues because you can hit a hater. I mean, these dudes are young enough to hit haters still. I mean, there's a couple of them that, on the back nine, but most of them are not. Most of them should be hunting that, hammering that. Why is that the case? And that's been the case for a couple of years now. It's the case last year, too. They were getting a bunch of fastballs last year. It's just funny how that happens, right?
Dan Shulman will join us from the ballpark in a few minutes, but when we come back, really looking forward to this. Alex Anthopoulos, president of baseball operations and general manager of the Atlanta Braves, will join us. Always a lot to talk about with the Braves. It's always great to touch base with Alex. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. All right, 7:07 will be the first pitch tonight as the Jays look to
I'm not saying a word.
Win the series against the Chicago White Sox. Blair and Barker will be along following the game for Blue Jays talk. Winning edition of Blue Jays talk, as you acted.
I didn't say it.
You said that yesterday.
I did not. I'll never say it again.
It's 5-0. The Jays lost to the White Sox. The Jays are 21-26 right now. And as they continue their quest to hit the 500 mark, they've got 4 games against the Detroit Tigers coming up, and 3 more against the White Sox and then the Pittsburgh Pirates as well. And, you know, we've made a point of pointing out how important it is for this team to try to build some momentum at this point in the schedule. And shall we say, we've expressed a certain amount of skepticism as to their ability to do that. However,
Light some candles, as my buddy likes to say.
yeah, I haven't used that for a while.
Maybe you should.
No, I don't really feel like it. Not yet. It's too early. Let's bring in. Yeah, it is. And you know why I know it's too early? I'll tell you why I know it's too early.
Why?
Well, because in 2021, the Atlanta Braves went on to win the World Series despite entering August with a losing record. They had a 7-game deficit they overcame. And last year, they had the National League's second worst record from May 10th to June 2nd. They still ended up with 104 wins. And the reason I'm mentioning that is our next guest is Alex Anthopoulos. He is president of baseball operations and general manager of the Atlanta Braves. Alec, thank you so much for joining us today. We trust you're doing well. We trust that the family's doing well. Look, I wanted to ask you this because of what I just said, because of the fact that the Braves have had success despite having parts of the season where it didn't look like it looked like it was going to be a little rough. Does that change the way you evaluate things? And I'm thinking specifically of 2021. Is that the type of thing that you think as a GM is going to change the way you evaluate where your team is from this point going forward?
Yeah, I would say, and I mentioned this way back in 2015 as well. And look, there's a lot more that goes into it than this, but run differential for me is big, really big. I gotta tell you, it's probably the sole driver. Look, everyone has their own stuff internally, and you can dig a little bit deeper. But if you just want a quick, clean look, run differential is huge. And if you look, and that to me will tell you where you are, where you should be, how lucky or unlucky you've been, what your chances are, and also relative to the division. So even if you look at 2015 Toronto, we were destroying everybody run differential. I think we were plus 80, plus 90. I think the next best team was maybe the Yankees at plus 20 or plus 30. Now, we weren't getting the wins, but it would tell you there was a lot of optimism that things should turn. And that gave us a lot of belief to try to turn it around and win. And I could tell you in 2021, the same thing. Our run differential was good, and we were trying to chase down the Mets, and it was right there, and we had a chance. So if we had a minus 10, 20, 30, 40 run differential, I can't tell you I'd feel the same way. And most times when it looks, you can tell, but if you look at that 15 Jays teams, we had guys having MVP seasons, guys were throwing the ball well. Our defense was not good, and we were losing a lot of games late and a lot of close games, and we just needed to tighten that up, and it would ultimately turn it around. So same thing for us in 21. It was exactly the same formula. In 2015, our run differential was good. We still had a shot. And from there, it was not a tough decision at all. So, from my standpoint, that's probably the number one thing I pay attention to the entire year.
Alex, I know you don't like speaking about other organizations, but last night, the last out was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. punching out looking, and the boos rained out. And I knew you were coming on, and I wanted to ask you this question. Front offices pay attention to any of the booing when the things are not going right?
Oh, yeah, you're definitely aware of it, right? And you're aware of it, and it's, we've had plenty of I remember we were scuffling. I think 2019, our bullpen was not doing a good job. Craig Kimball was a free agent. The fans started chanting in the middle of the game or towards the end of the game, "We want Kimbrel." And I came down to the clubhouse after, and I joked with our manager and our coaches. I said, "Guys, when you guys are chanting, can you just try to keep it down?" I knew those guys were dying. They were thinking the same thing. Like, why doesn't he just sign him? And we signed Dallas Keuchel that year, and we ended up winning the division and winning 97 games. But we had to trade for 3 relievers at the trade deadline. But look, you're very aware of it. When fans are booing and they're upset, and you feel it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. If you don't feel it, you don't care. So everybody feels it. Players, front office, we all do. I've had this conversation with players. Remember, we were playing the Mets a few years ago, and I was talking to a few of our players about, when you're not playing well, it's not a good feeling. You're embarrassed, and and you want to put out a good product, and you want to have a good team out on the field. But you ultimately know if, whether you're a player or you're working in the front office, you ultimately know whether it's going to turn or not, or you feel confident whether it's going to turn or not, and you just know it's part of the job. And at the end of the day, you just have to hope you come out at the other end.
Piggybacking off that, the Jays are 10.5 games, I think, out of first place in the American League East. They're 4 games back in the third wild card spot. There's 6 teams in front of them for the third wild card spot. I wonder, as a front office, do you look at number of games behind? Do you look at how many teams are in front of you? How do you go about, or when do you start looking at that part of how you determine on what your season ultimately is going to end up looking like?
Yeah, so I would say, just speaking for ourselves, number one thing is you focus on yourself and you need to play better, right? Rather than worrying about everybody else, because if you're not playing better, if you're not playing the way you want to, it doesn't matter what everyone's going to do, because if you correct what you need to correct, whether that's the rotation, the bullpen, defense, et cetera, offense, eventually that'll make the team better and that'll take care of itself. And I can give you examples of, again, 2015, we knew I think we had 11 games left against the Yankees at that time at the trade deadline. So we had 11 games left. We knew we could make some noise against them. Our run differential was arguably, I think it was the best in the AL at the time, and it was well ahead of New York's. So, yeah, we were, I think, 8 games back of New York, and winning the division was obviously the priority. But we felt like, yeah, it's not a foregone conclusion, but there was definitely enough games against them. Our run differential was really good. We thought we had a really good team, and if we could improve the defense, we would be in really good shape. And again, the first deal we did, and it wasn't by accident, it was by design, was the Troy Tulowitzki deal was the first deal we did because we felt like that had the most long-term impact, not for 15, but the other years, because we had decided Jose Reyes could not be shortstop going forward, and we had 2 years left on his deal. So we were going to use Jeff Hoffman in a deal. It had to be for a long-term piece, something that was going to impact us for 16, 17, and so on. But I would tell you that rather than worried about teams ahead of you and so on, the number one thing, again, for me is I'm looking at run differential. Mm-hmm. So even if we have 5 teams ahead of us, or 4 teams, if you're looking, whatever it might be, the wild card or whatever it is, if I look at our run differential and it's better than the majority of them, I would feel pretty confident that it'll turn and it'll ultimately come by the end of the year.
Great answer.
Alex, when you were contemplating acquiring Chris Sale, what was the final thing that tipped the balance in your mind of we've got to make this deal? Because he should be going to the All-Star game. You look at his numbers. And he hasn't allowed a run since the 5th inning of May 1st start, I think. I mean, the slider is, on run value, one of the best pitches in baseball right now, which is probably really no surprise for people who've seen him pitch. But when you were making that deal, what was the thing that made you identify Chris Sale as a guy that could be what you need?
I mean, look, most times the guys that are established and having great years, and look, those guys are more expensive to acquire, right? Either in trade or signing them. And then you're looking for some upside plays, which ultimately come with risk. But that obviously is reflected in the price. So from our standpoint, we had actually tried to get Chris or talk to the Red Sox about Chris in the offseason of 22 going into 23. Obviously couldn't get a deal done. Checked back in at the trade deadline. They decided not to sell, which was obviously fine. So, and then we re-engaged with them in the offseason. I think the biggest thing for us was when he was out there, he was still really good. And yes, there was a lot of injuries, but a lot of them were freak injuries. Taking a comebacker off the hand and being out is a freak thing. Falling off your bike is a freak thing. And I think your previous track record leading up to that point is important as well. This is a guy who was top 5 in Cy Young 7 years in a row. So he was able to post year after year after year after year, and he had the ability to do it. Has the Tommy John, going to miss time, COVID, and then some freak things. So if this guy had been perennially hurt and he had never been able to post for 6, 7, 8 years in a row, we'd feel very differently. But his stuff was every bit as good as it was in the past. Yes, he was older, but you look at some of the greats, and this guy was, I still think he's a shot at the Hall of Fame. You look at the Scherzers and the Verlanders and even Charlie Morton with us. We acquired Charlie Morton in his mid-30s. He was our Game 1 starter for the 21 playoffs all the way through the World Series, and he was tremendous for us. And he's still going at 40, and he's doing a great job. And the work ethic, the makeup, the competitor, that was really appealing because, of course, we talked about well, we can just not trade the prospect and go sign a free agent. The problem is, I told this in a staff meeting one time, I can't take Chris Sale's brain and put it in some other player.
Right.
And getting that person for our clubhouse and our young arms and the way he goes about it, the way he competes, how accountable he is, I don't know how many wins it's worth, but I know it's important. And I just think it was a really critical thing for us to have. And look, first and foremost, we thought he was really good. And there's still risk to health. He still has to. We're 6 weeks into this thing, 7 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. But when he's out there, he's good. And the person, the makeup, the teammate is elite. And I do think the story of the last few years has been a lot of freak things, bad luck things, and the arm stuff we believe is well behind him.
Alex, every time I talk to you, every time you come on this show, you talk about how important it is for a lineup to hit homers. Your team is 17th in hitting homers this year. You have one guy with 6 or more homers. Can you put your finger on why that is this year?
That means that we're due. We're going to start hitting homers.
Yeah.
And then I'm stealing. That's a total Scott Rowland line. I remember Cito Gaston sat Scott Rowland one game because he was like 0 for 30 against somebody. And he's like, that means I'm due. I need to play. We just haven't gotten going. We obviously have it's a young group and it's talented. And look, if I had an answer, we'd have it fixed, right? And we're hitting balls hard and doing all that kind of stuff, but we just we haven't clicked offensively. But at the end of the day, it's like we have a good group of guys, and they've been really productive players. And there's so much upside, and we've still been able to. We're 9 games over. We're not playing great right now, but we've pitched, and that's really carried us. So I don't have anything specific for you on it. If I did, we'd be hitting homers tonight. But I've had seasons where first 2 months things go slowly, and then come June it starts rolling, right? So I don't want to say June 1 is a hard date for us, but I do believe just with the track record, and we were all world last year, and I didn't expect us to repeat that. There's a reason it was a historic offensive season because it doesn't happen. But even if we regressed a little bit, I still expect us to be really good from an offensive standpoint. So I just expect that to come time.
Alex, obviously Spencer Strider's injury was one of the, I don't want to use the word marquee injuries, but it was one of the injuries that really, I think, early this year sparked a discussion about just injuries in general to pitchers and spin rate and the impact all this stuff was having in that, and maybe the the off-season work in different pitching labs, et cetera, et cetera. Now that we're removed from it a little bit, and understanding your focus is on what's going on in the season, though, do you feel that are you happy with whatever steps baseball is taking to this end? Like, I know there's that blue ribbon committee that's been struck. Are you happy with that? Do you think there's something that maybe needs to be changed about it, or is this just a product of the way pitchers are developed right now?
No, I think it's a combination of everything. And look, nobody has the answers. And I could tell you when Strider went down, and there was a group of injuries there. Strider, Bieber, just a bunch of guys, Cole, obviously in spring training, but a bunch of frontline guys. It felt like within a 2-3 week period, I could tell you it was a real conversation in our clubhouse. It was front burner topic, and everyone had takes and opinions and so on. And everyone had really good thoughts. To this day, even talking to the doctors, I mean, they're saying we're doing more surgeries than we ever have. I mean, we're blowing the doors off of doing these. I do think guys are throwing harder than ever. Guys are trying to throw harder than ever. Everyone's chasing swing and miss because teams are paying for that. You look at, I remember, way back early in my Jays career, 200 innings was good, but the guys that were the real, horses were going 220, 225, 230. And now, 180 is 200. And, I mean, it's crazy what it was back then. I remember when I was an assistant GM with JP Ricciardi, and, we were trying to compete towards the end. And Roy Halladay and A.J. Burnett were going on short rest, the last month. Or I was at Hank Aaron. It was a celebration for Hank Aaron and 715th home run in Atlanta at the beginning of the year. And CC Sabathia was there. And I was talking to him about his free agent year when he got traded to the Brewers. And he was going on 3 days rest all the way down the stretch.
Right.
And how he did it. And he said he felt great. And that was a free agent year. You want to talk about unbelievable team guy. Free agent year, he said he felt great. continued to have a phenomenal career. We're trying to make sure that we don't overly baby guys, I guess. We're letting guys go deep into games in the minors and so on. But, look, we've had as many injuries as anybody else, so we definitely don't have the secret sauce for it. But I do know this is one thing that the industry, teams included, everyone's getting together. Everyone's trying to share best practices because we all know the game is better when guys are on the field.
Yeah, well, last one before we let you go. Ed, you mentioned hard hit percentage a little bit earlier, and that's a big topic of conversation around the Blue Jays is that every time somebody's struggling, they always throw in, but he's hitting the ball hard. His hard hit percentage is way up. Organizationally, you with the Braves, do you look at that like you mentioned, or I mentioned you guys were 17th in home runs. Do you think that will equate into hitting more home runs because a guy is squaring the baseball up and hitting it hard?
Well, so here's what I'd say to that. And I'd say you can hit the ball harder on the ground than you can in the air for the most part, right? So you get guys that their exit velos and stuff, guys that just, hit more fly balls or pop the ball up a little bit more. You look at Ozzie Albies, for example, he had 30 home runs, I think, last year, and his exit velocities aren't off the charts. Or even Freddie Freeman's a great example. They're very good. But, he's not rolling out a 110 or, whatever it might be. But he's just a tremendous hitter, a Hall of Famer, and so on. So I do think that ground ball rate has to coincide with it. And look, I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, but generally speaking, the thought is the harder you hit the ball, the more chance you have a chance to get it by an outfielder, get it in the gap, get it by an infielder, and so on. So I think it's a part of it. I think contact is absolutely extremely important, especially when you need to move guys over, get guys in, man on third, and so on, swing and miss, approach, all that kind of stuff. So, look, every team is paying attention to that stuff. There are examples like Luis Arraez and so on that, he's just a tremendous hitter, tremendous bat-to-ball skills. I don't think it's the end-all, be-all because there's plenty of guys that, their hard hit percentages, or their hard hit, their totals or their averages are really good, but maybe their contact percentages aren't great, and that doesn't do you any good either. So I think you can't just look at that alone, in my opinion. I think you need to look at the ground ball rate is very important. And I would say the contact rate is very important as well. And you put all that together, not just his exit velocity is X, his top end exit velocity is X. I think all those things you can't just have it as an isolated thing. Those other two pieces for me are critically important.
That's awesome stuff.
Alex, thanks for doing this, man. Really appreciate it as always. Be well.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
Hey, guys.
Yeah.
Talk soon.
All righty.
Bye.
Alex Anthopoulos, President and General Manager of the Atlanta Braves.
Man. It's just like, that's all they ever say, right? Is, boy, look at that, 114 mile an hour, and it's a ground ball. That's why I wanted to ask him that coming off the season that they just came off of. It's not everything. Like, you got to be hitting the bottom part of the ball sometimes. When you hit the bottom part of the ball, it's going to create backspin. You ain't going to hit it as hard if you're hitting the middle part of the ball. Like, it's just sometimes you start to think about things and you're like, really, you're trying to sell this to us all the time. So hearing it from him, say it the way he said it, it's not everything, right? And I think sometimes it's just being beat to death that sometimes you get tired of hearing it, I think. And that's why I asked him, and that's a great answer from him.
A little bit of news while Alex was on. The San Diego Padres, remember, we talked about this on Blue Jays Talk a couple of nights ago. We were watching the game. Xander Bogaerts dove for a ball.
Yeah.
He has a fractured bone in his left shoulder, and he's out for a while.
Oh, that's awful.
So the San Diego Padres without Xander Bogaerts. And the only reason I'm mentioning that is, we talked a little earlier about all the Bo and Vladdy discussions that are going to have. I mean, it's time to start looking at teams that are probably going to be taking the type of look at themselves that the Atlanta Braves did with Alex Anthopoulos.
Could Bo play second?
I'm not going to go there, but I'm just saying that I'm at that point. I admit I'm looking at the Cardinals. I'm looking at what's happening with the Cardinals. Another team we haven't talked about that's got some young players that are kind of Cincinnati Reds.
Absolutely.
Right? They're kind of. So I'm just saying, I'm keeping track of these teams that might be in the mood for whatever reason, to make a major acquisition. Or a major pivot.
Yeah.
So, and you never know. And you do know that A.J. Preller, he gets itchy palms. Boy, he goes 5 days without a trade.
It's on the phone already.
You know? Anyhow, so there you go. But yeah, and I mentioned as well that the Cincinnati Reds are, and there are teams out there that have to make some decisions, and that's it. And that's just the way it is. And it was interesting hearing Alex talk about. Of course, as soon as he mentioned run differential, yours truly did, right? Yours
yeah, it ain't good.
Yours truly thought, okay, I wonder. So I'm just gonna.
Don't say it.
I'm gonna go with this.
Do the wild card teams, because that's what he's talking about.
Yeah,
the 10.5 back in the East, the two behemoths that are. You punted the East already.
I will do the wild card.
Yeah,
I will do the wild card teams.
Yeah,
because why not?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the wild card teams right now. Run differential: Baltimore Orioles plus 53, Kansas City plus 72, Minnesota plus 5, Boston plus 36. Now Boston is a game back. The Rays are minus 37, but they're the Rays.
Yep.
The Texas Rangers are plus 3. The Tigers are 0. Your Toronto Blue Jays are minus 45 in run differential. So the difference in run differential between them and the Red Sox right now is 81. And the Red Sox aren't even in the wild card.
Yeah,
spot.
who'd you say? The Tigers were 0. Who's the other one? Was small? Who was 5?
Texas Rangers were 3.
Yeah, so you were thinking, just going by what Alex was saying there, you would think those are the two teams that might go for it.
Houston Astros, they're a half game back of the Blue Jays, but their run differential's minus 8. The Los Angeles Angels, their run differential's minus 28. The only teams with the worst run differential than the Jays are the Oakland Athletics at minus 59.
Yeah.
And the Chicago White Sox at minus 100.
Yeah.
So we're putting that out there because, and I do remember Alex talking about 2015, and we've talked about what does a team do? Like what tells you that you have a shot? Well, you look at your run differential, you look at where you are in the standings, you look at who you're chasing, and should we be better? Should we have a better record than the record we have right now?
I mean,
is the way you look at it.
The Jays almost should be worse.
The Jays' expected win-loss record is 19-28. Their current record's 21-26.
I mean, that's
so. There you go. 19-28. The Athletics' expected one-loss record is 19-31.
Ouch.
And the Chicago White Sox is 13-36. So I mean, there you go. And it is. We talked about. For example, the White Sox. What is that difference? What does that run difference mean? The White Sox plus 30 or the Red Sox plus 36 run difference. Their expected one loss is 29-20.
Yep.
And there you go. And so that's kind of where you are with this team. And
yep.
The run differential.
Throwing your hands in the air and saying what a waste of a starting rotation.
Well, I was going to say, why the run differential is so bad here. Now, we do have to say that the bullpen is a major concern now. But that gets back to your, the idea about how you construct the team. And at this point, 21-26, at this point, it's hard to look at this team and just say that it has not been put together well.
Yeah, bringing in one bat just doesn't seem like it's going to fix it.
No, I'm with you.
Just doesn't have that feel to it, does it?
I'm with you. Well, especially if the only thing I have to trade is something out of my starting rotation.
Why would you do that? I mean, they're gonna. The run differential basically would tell you that they're gonna. Things are happening, and then now you're hearing Kevin talk the way he's talking. Things are happening.
I don't think there's a fix here. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm with you now. I mean, just listening to Alex talk and listening to having that conversation out loud about the run differential and. Not looking so much at the teams in front of you, just looking at what your team is actually doing and not doing. Not worrying about who's around you. Boy.
Let's just kind of drop some hockey news on folks as well, because it's nothing. It's hockey weather right now. Sheldon Keefe. Remember Sheldon Keefe?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's been hired by the New Jersey Devils as their head coach.
That's a big deal.
So, well, I think it's at least something that we can mention to our viewers on TV. That Sheldon Keefe is now the head coach
One door
of
closes.
the New Jersey Devils. One opens right away.
How about that?
Like fast. Opens fast.
Yep.
So, and you know what? And based on based on the classy manner with which Sheldon Keefe exited this city.
There you go.
Good on him.
Absolutely. He's easy to root for.
You talked about you ran into him a couple of times, and yeah, I have no problem saying that I really, really hope that he does well with Jersey, because there's only so much you can do, man. You got to deal with the hand your GM gives you.
Oh boy.
It's the same in every sport.
How about that? Isn't it, Doug?
Same in every sport.
Man.
7:07 is the first pitch tonight from the Rogers Center. Dan Shulman will have the call of the game, and guess what? He's going to join us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Chris Bassett takes the mound for the Toronto Blue Jays tonight against Nick Nastrini as the Jays attempt to win a series against the Chicago White Sox following last night's 5-0 loss. Man, oh man, Barker's giving me the side eye here. Let's bring in Dan Shulman. He'll have the call of the game on Sportsnet. Shulman, I don't know if you can see the TV right now, but Barker's side eye when I mentioned that they can win a series.
Dan,
here.
every time I say winning edition, because we have to do the show after the game, we always lose. So I'm never going to say winning edition again. That's
so
why.
it's not a must-win game or anything.
We're past those. No, like.
I think we're into must-win month territory.
Yeah.
I think more than anything else.
Yeah.
Dan, thanks so much for doing this. Hey, look, Kevin Gausman had a couple of comments to Rob Longley of the Toronto Sun today. Kevin Gausman, it was a very Kevin Gausman thing to say. Look, if we don't play well, this team is not going to be able to be together much longer, and nobody here wants that, right? These guys seem to like each other. They seem to want to stay together, and mostly I think they just want to win. Look, you're around that team an awful lot. Are you getting the sense that this is, that the realities kind of hit these guys right in the face right now?
I think so. I mean, it's still kind of early, right? I mean, it's early, but it's a little bit late at the same time. But it's still the third week of May. But a Gausman and a Bassett and a Turner and a Kiermaier and on, like these guys have been around. They understand the deal. And I read the article today, and I think everything Kevin Gausman said is 100% true. If this team doesn't play better, they are not going to be able to stay together. And there will be moves made, whether it's July or earlier. So I think I don't think this group thinks they can flip a switch and make it happen. And I know probably in years past, 22, 21, maybe there was a little bit of feeling that, hey, when it's time, they can flip the switch and they can score the runs, and they had the great offense in both of those years. But I don't think these guys feel this way. Feel that way. I think they know they have to play much better than they've played. I don't know how you can look at the numbers and not realize that they have to play much better than they played. So I'm kind of glad that Kevin Gausman said it out loud, because it's the truth, and it's not something that should be swept under the rug. They've got to play much better really soon in order to put themselves in a better position. And you want to, if you actually think you're a contender, you got to convince the front office of that. And you keep puttering along at 5 games under 500, and nobody's going to be going out to try to make your team stronger. Guys will be getting dealt to contenders.
Dan, what's your expectations for Justin Turner, say, in the next month?
It's a great question. I mean, how does a guy go from being easily the best hitter on the team for 3 or 4 weeks, and now until last night, he couldn't buy one day after day after day. I think he'll figure it out because he is smart and he's a polished hitter and he's experienced and all of that. I am not one, and probably I'm wrong, but I'm not one who believes you can be really, really good at 38 and then it just falls off a cliff at 39 or whatever ages, 34 to 35, 35 to 36. Again, as I always say when I come on with you guys, Kevin, I'll defer to you because you've lived it and Jeff and I haven't. But I think, obviously, for Turner, it's somewhere between the first 3-4 weeks and the last 3-4 weeks. But there's a lot of ground between the first 3 or 4 weeks and the last 4 weeks. I think he's going to be a contributor to this offense. I think he's going to be much better than he's been. He'll figure it out. I may have said this to you before, but I worked for a couple of years with Bobby Valentine, and Bobby said to me once, he said, Danny, don't get fooled. Nobody's ever as good as they are when they're hot, and nobody's ever as bad as they are when they're cold. The truth is always somewhere in the middle, and if you split the difference, that's still a very important guy on this roster. They don't have a lot of guys swinging it. So, even if he can get back to kind of close to where he was last year, 80, 90% of where he was last year. That's really going to help this team.
Same question, George Springer.
I don't know. That's my honest answer.
Me either.
I don't know. Do I think Bo Bichette is going to, have more nights like he did 2 nights ago and end up with good? Yes, 100%. I really don't have a feel for George Springer. What he's working on, what has changed from last year. And I guess the difference with George as compared to Justin Turner, again, Turner had a really good year last year. Springer, we have seen a decline over the last 3 years. If you the numbers tell the story. I would like to think he can get back to at least being what he was last year. He's playing pretty good defense, I think, and he's running the bases well and all that. So if he can just get back to where he was last year and be a league average offensive player, he can help this team. But that's one. And again, I'm no hitting expert, but Kevin, I don't have a feel for where George Springer is going to be. And you know what I think? I don't even know if George Springer has a feel for it right now.
It's a great answer.
I mean, he's been struggling for a while, and you can read his face, right? He doesn't hide his emotion a lot, and you can see it's got to be frustrating for him. And what the heck is going on here that he can't do some of the things that he's done so often in his career. So I'm gonna have to tap out on that one. I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
Dan, how does look? We assume that Chad Green and Bowden Francis, one of the two, will be with the team in Detroit on the weekend. Maybe both of them, and Yariel Rodriguez at some point will be up, but. Until then, does John Schneider and the coaching staff, do they have to rethink their bullpen a little bit in terms of how they deploy guys? I mean, I'm looking specifically at Tim Meza. You guys made the point last night. I think what is he? Righties are hitting 357 off him or some ungodly number like that.
Yeah. It is a difficult spot. I always refer to a phrase, the circle of trust in the bullpen. Jordan Romano is clearly in the circle of trust. Jimmy Garcia is the executive vice president of the circle of trust right now, the way that he's pitching. And Trevor Richards has earned the right to be thought of in that respect. Pearson up and down, Pop up and down, hot and cold, and up and down between the majors and the minors. And the two lefties have been struggling. I was a little surprised by the move because Richards can get lefties out, and obviously they wanted the lefty-lefty matchup. The risk in that is if Meza doesn't get the lefty, and he didn't, then he's got to face a righty. And if this is a few years ago, there's another righty up in the bullpen. But I think the 3-batter rule has really changed things for a lot of quote-unquote situational lefties, and I put Tim Meza in that category. So it does have to change the way you think about things a little bit. And as you say, if Green is back, if Francis is back, that should make the bullpen better than it is right now. But it's sometimes, Kevin, I heard your answer driving home last night. I was listening to you guys driving home, and a caller called in, and she was talking about it, and you did a great job. You presented both sides of it. It's one of those, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like when things aren't going well, at least you can say, I brought the lefty in to get the lefty. And if you leave Richards in and the lefty gets a hit, but I was a little bit surprised by it because it was Dominic Fletcher. It wasn't, Juan Soto or anything like that. And Richards has been so good. But I think you've also got to balance running guys into the ground, which I know you talked about a little bit last night, Kevin. But, they weren't going to win the game anyways. So it's the difference between a 3-0 loss and a 5-0 loss. But I think had the stakes been a little bit higher, maybe the move would have been different. That's just my guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, last one before I let you go. Can I finally say Alek Manoah is predictable?
I think so. I had a great chat with him today. And as you guys know, in a good place, Alek Manoah is a wonderful guy to talk to. And I had a great chat with him today. He is feeling good. He is one of the interesting things is he told me he is basically whatever Alejandro Kirk puts down, he's throwing that pitch. He doesn't want to. He trusts the game plan. He wants to read swings a little bit, but generally he trusts the game plan. He doesn't want to mess with the pitch clock. He's just it's not quite Nuke LaLoosh, but you know what I mean, right? It's just let me throw this pitch with conviction and trust my stuff. And I think for him that's a great place to be in. We've seen the velocity is just fine. We've seen the movement on the slider is there. We've seen the confidence in the changeup is building. Like, is he ready to be a Cy Young finalist this year? I think in fairness to him, let's go start by start a little bit longer and just watch him put up quality outing after quality outing. But I think he's in a really good place. He probably learned some very hard lessons in the last year and a half, and he's probably come back stronger and smarter and more experienced and good perspective and all that. The stuff looks really good to me. I don't think there was batted ball luck or atom balls or anything like that in the last 2 starts. I thought he pitched really, really well in both of them. He's got the Tigers in the next one. They're not a juggernaut offensively. Hopefully he can have another good one. But I'm with you, Kevin. Let's go a couple more, but I'm pretty close to jumping back on that ship again. I think he's looked great over the last 2.
Nice.
Yeah, what was the line from that movie? Don't think you'll only hurt the team. I think that's probably where we are with him. Dan, thanks for doing this, man.
You're the best, buddy.
All right, guys.
Have a good
great
call
night.
tonight.
I'll
Thank
be
you.
listening to you on the way home.
Awesome.
Take care. That is Dan Shulman, Blue
Pressure.
Jays voice on Sportsnet. We will be doing Blue Jays talk, a winning edition of Blue Jays talk.
You said it,
following-
not me.
I got.
You got what?
One of the other lines Kevin Gausman said in that article that I really liked is that they need a good month, and people can roll their eyes, but they need a good month. They need a good month to get back into
They got giant holes in the pen, and their lineup's not consistent. Like, how do you do it? The urgency from the front office, whether they can or can't do it, it's just not there. Like, it's just not there, right? It's just not. Like, you got what you got. How do they continue? How do they figure out how to consistently have an approach against a fastball? How? Haven't done it yet. How? What would tell you that they can consistently do that, Jeff? That's what you got to simplify it that much. Don't ever think this thing. You ain't going to. Marquise Grissom used to always tell me this. You ain't going to make a living off hitting a breaking ball. You ain't going to do it. Occasionally, if you hit in the middle of the order, you got to go up and educate guests. Most of these dudes ain't middle of the order bats. So you know what you do? You simplify it that much. I sit red. 3 pitches, 3 strikes. I sit fastball. And I'm going to force him to throw me something else because I'm hammering that thing somewhere. Until they consistently do that, how do you take them serious? Do you? I can't. I mean, it's just hard to do that. It's like Vlad. He's turned his season around a little bit because he's starting to hammer the heater. I mean, he didn't last night, the 6th inning, but that's the point, right? Is you got to get all over that thing. You got to somehow get in an athletic position that allows your barrel to beat the dude to the spot.
Yeah.
How do they consistently do that? And the big question, I'll raise my hand and ask, can they do it? That may be the bigger question. And I'm not sure the organization has the answer to that. Maybe they do, and they're just not telling anybody.
Well, they think maybe that whole, we've been talking a lot about bat speed and that, and maybe there's maybe there's a connection there between not being able to hit the fastball and bat speed.
Yeah, your barrel does what your feet do. Like it ain't the other way around.
Explain that.
Well, when I'm in an athletic position and I'm on time, Justin Turner always talks about being on time. If I'm on time, everything's going to end up where it's supposed to end up. If I'm not, it's going to look like I'm all out of whack and my barrel's playing catch up. Look at Vladdy. Vladdy moved around in the batter's box. Yay, just a little bit. Nobody can see that, but it's like an inch or two. Just enough to allow him to not chase the ball in and just sort of free his finish up a little bit better, which will allow him to get the velocity a little bit more. They think about it and say it in a way that just, it's mind-boggling. Like, it's obvious why the pitching side is so good and offensively it's just the map is like, you look at all the good teams in baseball. They sit breaking ball with 2 strikes. Phillies, Braves, Dodgers. I mean, name another good one. The Rangers, the Astros, and they destroy fastballs. Destroy them. Do the Jays do that? That's the point, right? It's just like instead of saying, his bat speed's this number and he hits the ball this hard. Well, what's this lower half doing? Like, how do you catch things out front to create backspin? How do you stay in the big part of the field? How do you stay square? How do you beat the guy to the spot? Talk like that. Simplify it that much. Hitting is the hardest thing to do in sports. I tried it. It is impossible. Sometimes ask Turner. So for 30, he feels like he's never picked up a bat before. It's the hardest thing to do in sports, but sometimes we make it harder when it just should be. What's your lower half doing? Is your foot down on time? Then your barrel's going to end up where it's supposed to end up. And don't swing at something you don't like to hit or don't like to swing at. Do that. A lot of times in the big leagues, it's not so much mechanical as it is what you're swinging at. If you swing at the right pitch, most of the time, because you're a big leaguer, the ball will go where you want it to go. And just look, again, this gets back to that talent thing. Like, off-season, this is why me and you were going on podcast, and anybody that wanted to listen was saying they're going to need 2 or 3 Turners. And they got the 39-year-old version of Turner, which, nothing against him. He's had a wonderful career, but that's a lot to ask a guy to have back-to-back career years in his late 30s.
So I guess I'm not the only one a little skeptical about George Springer then either.
Yeah, I don't think George has any idea. When the actual player don't have any idea, how are we supposed to have any idea? Like, I have no idea. Like, is his bat slow? Is he not as good a player as we thought he was? I mean, he's not 50. He's 34. Like, he's in great shape. I've seen him with his shirt off. It's unbelievable shape. Like, he's ripped. He's got a six-pack, I think. Like, he's in an elite shape. I don't think he knows, right? He may be the one guy that has to sit breaking ball. A lot of guys can't go up and hit sit heater. I mean, is Alejandro Kirk going to go up and look fastball? I mean, track record would tell you probably not. Like, there's guys on that team that don't like the fastball that have to sit something else. So that's what I said. Every good swing works from the ground up. It ain't the other way around, whether you have elite bat speed or not. Like, elite bat speed just lets the ball travel a tick longer, which allows you to see the ball a tick longer, which would allow you to lay off of something you don't want to swing at. That's what that gives you. All that other stuff, Mookie Betts is like below average in bat speed. Look at his numbers. He's elite. Like, would you like to have him leading off for the Blue Jays? So, yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Again, it's hard for me to say the message because I'm not in the room. I just know what I see. And what I see is an approach all over the place. That lefty last night basically was doing the old spring training. And you've been in spring trainings where the dude on the mound is giving the old fastball sign. Yep. Like, here it is, dude. I'm telling you it's coming. And they still couldn't hit it. It's that kind of thing. So,
yeah, let's get in the bus and get the hell out of Sarasota.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what it is. That's what it is. You do see that, and that is when you see that in spring training. That is truly a blessed spring training day.
I've been on field 7 before, having some dude nobody's ever heard of doing that to me, and it's awful.
Yes,
it's the worst thing ever. You've been on field 7s. It's awful. Nobody's paying attention. They don't even have a camera facing that field. Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah, there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse.
And you're the only guy hitting.
I was going to say, there's nothing worse than when you're going in the cage to hit in spring training and all sorts of people are going the other direction.
Yeah,
that is the worst.
And there's the one coach over there on that field that nobody's ever heard of. And you're like introducing yourself for the first time. It's like,
I'm the assistant hitting coach at
really?
Low A.
What?
Oh, thanks for this.
It's the worst.
Yeah, no, that cannot be a good feeling.
It's not. It's an awful feeling. Yeah. I've been on both sides of it. I've been on field one time, one spring training,
and then Barker,
I've been
field
on
7,
and I've been on the field 7 with the only guy hitting against the 7th starter that is no chance of making the team, who's working on something. And you're like, seriously, the manager's nowhere to be found. The GM, who knows where he's at? Probably at Wendy's eating. It's like you got no idea where. It's just like. Yeah, well, what's happened?
It was interesting hearing Dan Shulman talk about his conversation with Alek Manoah as well, and Alek Manoah basically saying that he's going to trust Alejandro Kirk.
Yeah, think wrong.
He's just what he calls I'm throwing. Not going to worry about the pitch clock. And I wonder when you sit. I wonder if you ever had a chance to sit down and talk to Alec about what went wrong last year. I wonder if maybe the pitch clock wasn't a thing, wasn't a contributor to it. When you got I keep thinking what Trevor May was talking about. You got a lot going on.
Yeah.
That's that clock, I'm sure last year that clock must have seemed for Alek Manoah like it was 3 seconds.
I'm sure. Yeah, nothing was working. Yeah, he's in better shape. I mean, I'm sure he's in better shape for a reason. I mean, I'm sure that came into play where, I got to get this thing and go. I got to get this thing and go. I got to be in good enough shape to be able to stay centered over the rubber, fight down the mountain to where my velocity's the same all the time. That would make my secondary stuff good, and I can throw it to a really good left-handed hitter. I'm really good arm side with my two-seamer, right? I can start it where I want to start it to have it end up where I want it to end up, right? The Bassick and the Gausman sitting over there with the bat, sort of saying you got to start it here if you want it to end up here, and to be able to actually go out there and apply it with what you're, sort of learning and understanding from guys who've been around forever. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
But, thank you, Lucky Stars, using an organization that believed in you and gave you an opportunity to basically go away for a year and then come back and look like this.
If you're looking, because there's been, let's face it, I mean, there has been a lot of pounding on this front office, and there probably will continue to be as long as the team doesn't play well. But if Alek Manoah has righted the ship, then I think there's a lot of people, and first and foremost, Alek deserves a lot of credit for taking advantage of the fact that the organization's been patient with him. Mm-hmm. But if that is the case, then a lot of people deserve a lot of credit. And if you're looking, and I understand it's not even June yet, and we're looking for silver linings, but Alek Manoah's return to an elite level could be the most positive story.
Yeah, that would allow them to if they want to, get rid of a Kevin Gausman, get rid of Yusei Kikuchi. Yeah. Now you'd have your number 1 or 2, and you could fill in the blanks and sort of build around that.
Or I'll tell you, I mean, I hate to say it because I don't think you can get rid of the dude, but I'll tell you what, if Jose Barrios goes to the All-Star game,
you're getting rid of that. I mean, that's predictable.
He's under contract.
Taking it every 5 days. I mean, you just, those don't grow on trees.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
He's taking the step forward. He would be, for me, the one untouchable. I ain't getting rid of him. I'm sorry.
I agree with you completely. That's the way you and I would do it. But I don't know if that's...
Man.
I think I'll save that for Blue Jays talk tonight. We had a bit of a...
No, not we. No, not we.
There was a little bit of a rant last night.
It wasn't really a rant.
It was just
sometimes occasionally you got to, with your warm glass of milk, tell it like it is. And
that wasn't a warm.
That's exactly how it was taking place.
Actually, it was.
Good for you. It saved me a lot of talking, which I'm a big fan of that. So feel free to do that tonight again.
Yeah.
Winning edition.
No, I won't have to do it tonight because it will be a winning edition of Blue Jays Talk. We're going to have a lot of good stuff to talk about tonight. Bassett will be good tonight. They'll win a series.
Vladdy hit a homer.
Vladdy hit that's it for Blair and Barker. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time. Yeah. We will be doing Blue Jays Talk following the game tonight. Again, Sheldon Keefe is the new head coach of the New Jersey Devils. Stay tuned to the Fan pregame. I'm sure they'll have lots of that as well. Enjoy the baseball. We'll talk again tomorrow.